Hey everyone, this is S and Pratt, and welcome to the first Patreon exclusive Q&A video for October 2019. We're doing it pretty casual for the Patreon subscribers. Just did a box opening in the casual wear, but nonetheless, we're going to get into a new type of video that you will see every month from here on out. Just a quick recap for the new patrons. After my monthly market recap, you can ask me a question. I simply print out those questions. I go through everything, give you my real-time answer. Even if you're a shy guy and you don't have anything to ask, there will hopefully be some useful content here for you. So we're going to go ahead and get right into it, starting with Choke. Choke says, hey Scott, in your opinion, what do you think about the personalized TMB SSB Neo Summer Spring Battle Road trainers with the winner's name on it? Do you think collectors would still want them even though the cards are so personalized with the actual name? Lot to get here. This very good question. It's going to be its own video. So get ready for a lengthy response. In short, I don't think the name matters. I would say also that these cards are underrated. I would even say criminally underrated for a number of reasons. I actually responded quickly, briefly on E4 about this, but to give you a full breakdown here, the Battle Road trainers, for those who aren't aware, are those ones with the winner with a medal on their chest. It could be either bronze, silver, or gold, and the higher you go up there, the more Pokemon are in the background. I think it's a little clever, cute idea. You know, third place has 2, then second is 4, and then first is 6. It's like Voltorb, Marill, Chansey, Pikachu. Can't remember the other 2. But anyway, that is the card. There's a couple female as well for the female winners. Really cool idea. I think it's a nice idea. Unique art only for that release. So that's one aspect. Another big one is these are numbered trainers. When I say numbered trainers, I mean number 1, 2, 3 trainer, and 4 for English. Why this is so inherently valuable is because this is literally the end of the road, the end of the battle road. It's the absolute end of any tournament. You know, you have something like this as the end of a certain tournament, but the numbered trainers are the pinnacle of whatever it was, you know, whatever tournament it was, whether it's Worlds, SSB, TMB, you know, Pika official tournament, battle road like this. It's the final point, end point of that tournament. So therefore, these are God tier rarity. And we could split hairs and talk about how SSB, TMB, and Pikas have slightly less copies than these, but they're still all under that God tier rarity umbrella. Also, another big point for these. This is the last Japanese numbered trainer. You know, so when we're talking about that top of the mountain, the inherent top of the mountain, because it's the absolute endpoint, this is the last Japanese numbered trainer. They phased them out because after this, in 2004, they started doing just the English World Championship tournaments. That was the final endpoint where Japanese was incorporated. Because before you didn't have that setup, it was more splintered. So after that, 2004, all the Japanese compete at Worlds. So therefore, these are the last Japanese numbered trainers. So you're seeing some knowledge is power here being displayed. That's why I'm pretty bullish on these cards, because the price point, I mean, I'm a 10K buyer, blind buyer all day for them. Because I think they're just very underrated. They're such a great card to own. Now, getting to your point about the name on them, I think it's also negligible. I think most people are collecting art. Like, even something like this is another example. There's a little slip down here that can have a 1, 2, or 3 on it. I think most people don't care because most people just want the artwork. I'm sure there are certain buyers where they might want the 1 or whatever it is. Maybe. But most, I think, are just going for that art because I think that's what we're collecting at the end of the day. And if anything, for me personally, I don't mind the name that's printed on there. I think it just adds another bit of history. I think it's cool because you can document actually who had that card. For me, that's a cool thing, especially in the face of things like extra copies and things like that. This new emerging pattern that we're experiencing, I don't mind the names. If anything, I think it adds another layer of history. But again, that's just me. But a more objective take, I think most people don't care. I think most people just want the artwork. So there it is. That's my take on the Battle Roads. I think they are underrated because of those points mentioned. Last Japanese numbered trainers, and they are, again, God tier rarity, numbered trainers at the end of the game, the end of the road for tournaments. That's my take on them. Hopefully you got everything there. Again, this could be its own video because I think those cards are a great example of something that flies under the radar. Okay, next question. TC Genius, if you decide to open one box, WotC box, discounting base set, what would you choose? That's a good question. Off the cuff, I would say probably Neo Destiny. I think Neo Destiny is just a fun set. I think it's got the history to it, and also, you know, it's got some hollows. The hollows are great. They're not actually that easy to grade. Also have shinings, of course. So if I had to go for it, probably Neo Destiny is my go-to that I can think of. Next question from Belgarath. I think I'm pronouncing it right. Hi, do you know any thoughts on the God Packs in Tag Team All-Stars set back there? And have you got any experiences to share with regards to English black and white sets relative print runs? As someone who wasn't around for that era, it'd be interesting to hear how the full arts were first received and how that developed as being more textured as the era progressed. I wonder if it's similar with hyper rare cards, first time compared, now having some hyper rares around. Okay, I get what you're getting at there with full arts. As for God Packs, I haven't experienced it. I don't want to throw the baby out the bathwater and say it's just hype. I mean, it could be a thing. I don't know. I don't know how I noticed when I was opening these, you have like 5 hollows in a row. So I don't know how packs could be inserted to have a God Pack. Who knows? It's all done in factory. I think one of the things I can throw at you for God Packs it's not some hand done whatever. This is all factory produced stuff. So if there is a mistake, who knows? But I haven't experienced it. I haven't seen the definitive proof yet, like on video live. But as for your question, black and white era as they evolved with the full arts, no one knows the print runs. That's unanswerable. I would definitely assume that the black and white era had less, of course, than today because there are less people around. Back then, there's not going to be many parallels to hyper rares. Hyper rares, unfortunately, have a lot more than people realize. Also, there's so many of them that I think people get fatigue. I think people get hyper rare fatigue. Also, they aren't unique. I remember when they first hit the scene, I was like, whoa, this is great, we get a new art. And then after like the second or third set, I'm like, oh, they all look the same. So, with that said, I don't know how many parallels there's going to be with black and white and hyper rares because they're different identities. Black and white full arts are picking up some interest, nothing too crazy to write home about. There's a little more interest with them, but a lot of that stuff is still in the modern playable format mostly. It's not really a huge collector pool. It's still mostly players for expanded and standard. Next up, Joseph said, Scott, hello. Do you personally collect Art Academy cards? What are your thoughts on them? Yes, I have some. I casually collect them. I think they are solid cards. Anything, like I was saying earlier with God Tier Rarity, 100 copies or less or somewhere in that range is insane. So they are very rare. I don't like the process, though, of how you have to deal with the emotional owners. There's a lot of sabotage with that stuff. The most sabotage I've ever experienced was with the Art Academy cards. People trying to corner one of the winners and then feed them lies and all this nonsense to flip the cards or to keep other people away. I don't like that aspect of it, but the cards themselves are solid. Stefan asks, hey Scott, got a little trip to Japan booked. Are there any cards you think worth picking up, e.g. Naked Misty, Pika Full Arts, or anything else? What are your thoughts? Cheers. I mean, honestly, going to Japan and being on the ground floor, you're going to find so many items below cost or like at the lowest cost, like the ground floor. Naked Misty might be one of them. It really just matters to what store you go to and what is available. You know, some stores might have like 5 Charizards. Some might have like a couple Naked Misties or a couple Mario Pikachus. So you could just keep an eye out for the staple stuff. You know, stuff like this, the Mario Pikachus, some of the full art, some of the Pikados cards, like the cosplay cards, Pokemon Center cards. You're probably going to find them cheaper than anywhere else since you're there on the ground floor. Especially if you come from the U.S. I don't know where you're located, but if your dollar conversion is even stronger, that's doubling down. But either way, you're going to find something, man. Like, just peruse around the stores, look for the staple stuff. It's going to be there, but I can't give you like some quadratic answer on is it going to be X, Naked Misties or whatever. It's just going to have a mixture of like CD promos, Koro promos, Masaki's. You'll see stuff like that probably at the cheapest cost, cheaper than what you can get online. Not like half off or anything, but still a percentage lower. Fighter Destiny asks, hey Scott, my Q&A question is, out of all the quotes, fun facts at the bottom of vintage Pokemon cards, which one is your favorite? Wow, that's a very specific question. Voltorb comes to mind. Like, I like how Voltorb, I think you're talking about like the flavor text, right? Like the one, let's see if I have a card here that has it. Like the one here at the bottom, if you mean that, like this one's Raichu, it says a long tail serves as a ground to protect itself from its own high voltage power. I remember as a kid reading all of that. So probably Voltorb comes to mind because it had that air where it said Monster Ball instead of Pokeball for the first edition in Shadowless. So that's probably the one that I think of because that's like the air one that was most memorable for me. Porygon Enthusiast asks, would beefed up Mega Booster boxes be a good idea in modern day Pokemon? Been following the Throne of Elderon discussions in MTG, so it's similar to this. Maybe assign 1 out of 10,000 or some really lottery-like card. Do you think it's bad sign or cool new higher-end option? That's a good question. I have mixed feelings on this. I do think, they have like the expedition rares or whatever in Magic. I do think that something like that is good, but I would prefer a unique art. I wouldn't want a signature. I think signatures get into that modern sports stuff where it's really contrived. Signatures are a different market, which I'll let time play out for Pokemon to really delve into it. There's a lot of stuff from sports that, because people don't deal in sports and autographs, don't realize about signatures. The general overview is that signatures are produced by the artist, as we've experienced with the Rita. So I don't really like the idea of a signature in a box. I prefer some type of unique art. I think that'd be phenomenal. I think people would go crazy for it. And I do think there needs to be an added rarity. I don't know if maybe one per case, two per cases. I think Gold Star was about that, about a couple per cases. I think that's fine, especially with the amount of product that's out there now. Put like 2 or 3 cards that are one per case, even 2 cards. It's like you can get a case and get both of them. I think that's fair play. I think that's a great idea. But I would just not want to lean into the signature stuff and stuff like that because I think it's a bit more contrived. Unique art, I think, would be a great idea for this. Jordan asks, hey Scott, another great video. I have a couple questions. What is your favorite modern card and why? How do you think they will end up for the ante for the chase cards in the Sword and Shield era? It seems hard to create more hype past full arts, the Rainbow Rares, the alternate art tag teams, and then the gold cards. I agree. I really don't know what they're going to do with Sword and Shield. We saw that preview with those black border cards. No one knows yet. We're still waiting. I have my Japanese pre-order already put in for the Sword and Shield Japanese stuff, so that'll be the first, experience with the set. I don't know, man. I really don't know what they're going to do. I think less is more at this point. I think they need to cut stuff. I think maybe get rid of the hyper rares or do something, kind of piggybacking off the previous one. Some unique art would be great. Do a unique art version for each different rarity. It gives people something to chase. It's more diverse. It's more exciting. I think that would be the best option. Just do unique art for each tier. That'd be my dream. But no one really knows yet. We're all just patiently waiting for Sword and Shield. All we have is the new black border. The throat of Magic is really all we have right now. So we'll see what happens. It's only going to be a couple more months, so we'll see what they decide, what the Pokemon gods choose. Francis Safard asks, hey Scott, my girlfriend just recently discovered a French promo called Porte de Depart and Beginning Door in her collection, and we were surprised to find out that they were quite rare and that PSA graded them. There's also another one called Ultimate Zone that's exclusive to France. Do you have any info on these cards, where they come from, and what's your opinion on them, as there's few non-English Japanese cards PSA graded? Okay, I know for sure that Ultimate Zone is from Arceus in English. That's an English card. Unless there's a different version you know about that I'm not aware of. I don't want to brutally translate this other card you mentioned. I don't know what that would be in English. But yeah, I don't know. I have to see the actual card you're talking about, but usually there aren't other foreign language cards exclusive. That's a very, very rare scenario for one main reason. The print goes like this: Japanese, then English, then the other languages. It's very rare that you would have one of these other languages circumvent that process. So I would have to see the card. I don't know off the top of my head. Unfortunately, my French is not anywhere near yours. So I don't know for sure what this card is, and I can't translate it well enough to know, but I know for sure Ultimate Zone was in English, or at least the one I know is in Arceus, for sure. So with that said, if this is somehow French exclusive, yeah, I can have legs to it, but again, I would have to know what the actual English translation is, because it might have an English release just with a different name. David Williams asks, hey Scott, in regards to the increase in Pokemon card signings by more and different artists, what is your opinion on getting the card itself signed versus leaving it in a PSA case, or having the case signed that is not likely to have a signature authenticated anytime soon? Okay, so you're basically throwing out the card versus case discussion. I'm on the side of card 100%. I don't know why people sign cases. I think it's stupid. I think it's stupid for a number of reasons. Number one, when people are buying signatures, they're not trying to buy a mint card. Usually those are two different camps. Echoing sports as well. Two different camps. People aren't looking for a gem mint example also signed by the athlete. Usually a signed rookie is going to be a card that is just signed, and they want the clarity of the card. I have a Gretzky card out of shot here that I've shown in camera a couple times, and it has a beautiful signature on it. The card's probably PSA 5 or 6 condition, maybe even lower, but the signature is absolutely beautiful. Well-centered, great clarity. It's just everything about the proportions are great, and that's what people look for usually with signatures in sports. I think a lot of that will carry over because Pokemon right now and signatures are in their infancy. I think the whole signed case thing are people who are too nervous to get a card signed. I will never understand that concept because if you want a gem mint card, you now have the signature blurring looking at the aesthetic of the card. So it straddles that fence there. I think a gem mint card, the whole point of it is so you can appreciate the aesthetic beauty of it. Where with a signature in front, I just don't. Again, it's the choice of the consumer, but this is just my opinion, and I think this opinion is reflected in the market. More people want the actual card signed than the case. We even did a poll on E4, and that one's a bit off because a lot of people responded who don't collect autographs at all. So that data is a bit off. But even with that, most people were still on the side of the card. I think there were a lot of contrarians in there who responded with the case signing who will never buy a signature ever. But yeah, overall, I don't see it. I don't understand it. It's not really prevalent in any other market. That's what I can tell you. It's not prevalent in sports. It's not prevalent in Magic. And if it is, it's super negligible. It's always on the side of the actual item is signed, because another aspect is I don't trust a case that's signed. I just simply don't. When I have a card that's encased and protected and secure, like that Gretzky rookie, to me, that's like a solidified piece of history. Where if I have a piece of plastic signed, there's a lot of room there for manipulation and error. So that's my take on it. Again, it's partially my opinion, but a lot of that is echoing the other patterns that exist in other markets that have a longer, deeper, like 100 years of memorabilia signed. Here's actually a great example. Bonus round. Got a Mickey Mantle ball here. If this case were signed by Mickey Mantle, that'd be ridiculous. And I think as things age in Pokemon, Mickey Mantle's deceased. He's an absolute legend in baseball. You're going to want that ball signed by him, that item signed. So, again, just throwing it at you, no pun intended, with the baseball. So, next question, James Richards. Hey, Scott, people hate on 5-band all the time, yet the highly sought-after modern English trophies #1 for trainers have art by 5-band. Do you like the art on those cards? And can you discuss the relative importance of artwork when compared to extreme rarity? Oh, yes, I can, James. I have those cards, and I actually think I was the first person, not to humble brag, the first person to complete the set and get it graded. I think I still have the highest graded modern #1 through 4 run for trophies. And 2014, the first year, we weren't done humble bragging. So those cards are very nice. I do like the rarity, going back to the first question about the battle roads. #1 to 4 trainers, top of the mountain. That's literally the end of the World Championship Tournament. The highest price you can receive are those 4 cards. So at the end of the day, the artwork is solid. I think when people talk about 5-band, it's not, again, you don't want to ban 5-band. I'm not one of those people. I think the CGI, like for example, those gold, I don't know if I have any over here, those gold secret rare trainers, I've showed them in a video before in a box opening, like the Viridian Forest. There's another one, like a pond with Magikarp in it. I think the Brooklet Hill, I think those are great, and they're done by 5-band. I think there are a lot of nice 5-band cards. These are probably top for me. The Pika trophies are probably top. Very nice. The texture works well with the cards. They look great in person. So, yeah, I think they're solid. As for relative importance of artwork when compared to rarity, rarity is going to win out all the time. But I would say that the winning combo is unique artwork with rarity. That's the winning combo. That's what I chase. I think that's what increases everyone's heart rate at the end of the day, is that unique art with rarity combo. That's the winning combination. When you split them up, you get mixed results. Some cards are very rare, but if they don't have unique art, look at like things like LP promos, in the pooper. Like they just went straight down because they don't have unique art. They're still solid and they have some interest in them, but it's never going to be something like this. The peak examples you gave, that combo of unique art and rarity, that marriage, it's exactly what you want. But again, if there's split up, it's a little more splintered. It's not going to have the same strong appeal. John asks, Scott, do you think the champions promos from the international championships are under examined? I myself am outspoken lover of the DCE. Oh, I know you're on E4. Are you Thundermoo? Is that the same person? There's a person who definitely talks about these more than most. Would you place these cards in a tier below the Champions World's promo since they have about equal rarity or somewhere else? Thank you. These questions are just all top shelf. So this is a very good question, but what I would say for these, it kind of piggybacks off the rarity artwork thing of the previous question. The thing that these lack is the artwork. That's the thing they lack. They have the rarity. They have the stamp, but they lack the artwork. Why I love the World's promos, and why I would argue that the World's promos are the best English option ever. Like, ever. Like, they're the best things for English. Like, when you're trying to mix in everything with rarity, unique art, history, you know, it's literally, I think people truly sleep that this is the World Championship Tournament, the top of Pokemon for the world. I mean, you have like 50 countries now at this tournament. It's a fourth of the globe is at this tournament. So, with that said, you get unique art for that tournament. This year was absolutely beautiful artwork. I mean, it was unreal. Like, I got goosebumps looking at it. You had Pikachu in a museum, second time in DC, throwback to the earlier DC in a portrait. I mean, it's phenomenal. The concept is phenomenal. So, that is why those cards, I think, are always going to be a step above. Because, again, we're collecting artwork here. It's sentimental. Even me describing that. It's like I'm getting into it. I'm feeling it. Heart rate's increasing. I think that's what it's about at the end of the day. While the champion DCE cards have the stamp and they have the rarity, the thing they're always lacking is the artwork. And I think the Worlds are always going to be a step ahead simply because of that artwork. And then if you want to get more into it, because that artwork ties into the event, the historical element, etc., I think that's why it's always going to be a step above. Philippe asks, can you give a breakdown percentage-wise of your net worth? Hopefully that's a joke, because it's not happening. Do you know any information on whether or not the 2 Japanese artists that are coming to the U.S. will require a personalized signature? They will be. So I think Charlie broke it down on Discord, and essentially what's happening is Fukuda and Saito are going to be in DC, I think, the weekend of Thanksgiving. Not the most ideal time, but that's when it's going to happen. I don't know if they're going to do a submission thing where you can submit to them and pay. But at the end of the day, they are doing personalized. I think you have to pay more for non-personalized. I don't know the guarantees on that because there's going to be an absolute flood of people trying to send stuff. I mean, just from one announcement of this publicly, Gold Stars just like disappeared because so many people are trying to send in Gold Stars to Fukuda. So, with that said, I think there are currently options to do non-personalized, personalized, and maybe a sketch, but you go higher for each one of those. And personalized is going to be the least expensive. Also, it's when do you? Sorry, I didn't see this bit. When are you coming to Canada? That may happen. I'll let you guys know. I'll let the Canadians know. I have it in the works. It may happen. I'll confirm it here. You'll hear it here first on Patreon when it's confirmed. Kishra asks, being that you are a collector at heart, do you get seller's remorse when selling high-end cards? Good God, these questions are good. There's one bullseye after another. So that's a very good question. That's in general, I would say 90% of the time when I'm selling cards, it's something I have another copy of. Like majority of everything I have on eBay, I have 2 of at least. Usually I try to keep 2 to 5 of everything. So yeah, in most situations I don't have to deal with that. Now, to be real, I mean, you're getting your emotional value here in this response, but there are times when, I mean, I'll be real with you, like I've been brought to tears at some point. Like when I remember the biggest moment, the biggest transition is when I first bought my home years ago, like 2012, and it was hard. Like there were certain cards I sold, and I bought most of them back. It's just the emotional process of selling those cards, and you know a lot of those cards got me to where I was, got me to where I am now. It was very emotional. It was extremely emotional, and I think it's good to talk about that. I think sometimes I feel comfortable to talk about it here. I think the emotional stuff's always a risk because people are going to judge or whatever. But yeah, it was extremely emotional. I remember one of the cards I sold was my first Trophy Kangaskhan that I bought, and of course I have one now with a higher grade. But there's just something about that first one that you have, and yeah, it is emotional when it happens. I don't do it that often, but yeah, that's the short answer of it. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the ultimate answer is because life is a time game. You got to just nut up. Like, that's what I tell myself. I'm like, people fought in wars, when they're 18 years old. So it's like, nut up here. Like, I'll like, whatever, do some hardball talk to like not worry about the emotional part. But I think it's good to have that. I think it keeps you grounded. It's why we're all here. So yeah, it is emotional for me and not afraid to talk about it. So that's a very good question. But again, most of the time, the stuff you see on eBay or whatever it is, I have doubles of it. Probably to insulate myself from having to get to that point again. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe I should just lean back this chair fully and get into full therapy. But yeah, there it is. That's the general breakdown. Winners ask, hey Scott, appreciate you setting up this new Q&A. series. I think it will help people out a lot, both with collecting and getting better understanding of the market. This isn't a question. I just want to say thanks. Appreciate it, winners. See you all the time on Discord. I'm glad that you support the Patreon. It means a lot. Moving right along. I guess I should probably pick it up. I don't know how long we've been going here, but next, we have a couple more to get through. Hey, Scott, thanks for everything. What do you think about the City Championship medals? They are going for about $20. Are they worth something? There's something called a secret club key card. Don't know about that. There's a lot of questions here. In some trade I got a Wayne Gretzky signed autograph envelope, which has been authenticated. Is it worth anything? I have no clue about hockey. Okay, a lot of stuff here. So, City Championship medals, there's a reason they're $20. They're not that exciting. Carrying all these other points before. They're not really unique art. Most of them have a Japanese release, so they're not that crazy rare. Also, I think they're decent, but that's just the current going rate. They've always been in that ballpark, like $20 to $100, somewhere in there. As for the phone card question that you asked, phone cards, I like the art on them. They're very niche. The only reason TNB phone cards are valuable is because they were given out at the TNB tournament. You take that element away, people aren't going to pay a premium. I think every other phone card is anywhere again, kind of like these City Championship cards, $20 to $100. That's where most of them sit. As for the Wayne Gretzky thing, I'd have to know the exact item. I have another one out of shot here. It's I can't remember what it's called. They do a promotion. They used to do this back in the day where it's like something day. It's like an envelope with a photo and it's signed with a stamp. I think it's cool because it captures a moment in time. It's not going to be a huge premium, but usually Gretzky authenticated signature, even on like a cut, is like $100, minimum. So, I mean, that's what I'd look at as a baseline. The added value is going to be on clarity or the historical element of the card. If it's like a rookie card, it's obviously more valuable. If the clarity is better, higher authentic grade or higher auto grade, that'll add value. But otherwise, I would say hundreds of baseline. Emery asks, hey Scott, thanks for all of your sharing and insights. Really appreciate it. I know I am new to the collecting scene and getting my first cards such as Grand Party Trainer, Team Rocket special case promos. No clue whether they are prudent purchases. Nonetheless, I'm mainly in it for nostalgia and the artwork. Thank you, but simultaneously, there's a run on. I naturally don't want to lose or waste money. Therefore, I want to ask for a starter kit containing a website's procedures aimed to help expand my knowledge. Currently, I have found Bulbapedia, Pokemon Price, PSA Pop Report, eBay listings. Thank you for your answer. Keep it up. Yeah, I mean, you hit the big ones. Those are the big ones. E4 is like the discussion place. Discord's even more if you have more time to waste. There's another one. Pokemon Price is the best right now for just a quick price snapshot. PSA Pop Report is also very useful if you want to look up the numbers. eBay Complete Listings is the easiest if you want a more detailed sale breakdown. You really hit the big ones. One thing I'll add here is that time is a necessary variable. I get this question a ton. I probably get this question every day in some form or another, where people ask me, hey, I'm new, what should I do, what should I look for? I just want to make sure I'm not buying a $10 card for $1,000. Overall, time is necessary. I think everyone expects immediacy now because we have, 1 terabyte memory. Everything is like fiber internet at this point, so we expect everything immediate and instant. However, the natural time of understanding, it's like learning a language or anything else. You need time to understand how the processes work. You have all the foundation here. You have all the groundwork laid with these sites, but understanding them and how you navigate them, and also when you talk about Grand Party and Rocket, you're talking about primo stuff. This is very established stuff, very popular. Some of it's rarer. Some of the rare stuff in the hobby, unique art. So at the end of the day, there is no magic bullet here that's like, yeah, buy Grand Party. It's going to be $1,000 in a year, 2 years. That's unanswerable. But you're already in that process of engagement, and that's why I try to tell new people is that just stay on this course of being engaged. You're going to learn at least something. You're going to cultivate something. And some of that does come from mistakes. Some of that comes from overpaying. That's part of the game. That's just part of the reality. So with that said, this is an abstract question, so you're getting an abstract answer. Ultimately, you have your bases covered. Things like Grand Party and Rocket 20th Anniversary are super staple items, very staple items. Some of the most popular, like Rocket 20th is like one of the more popular modern items, very rare as well. Grand Party is an extremely popular item, beautiful artwork. You even have someone like Gary, Gary is somewhat prejudiced towards Japanese stuff, and one of his favorite cars is Grand Party because it's phenomenal. So, yeah, you're pretty much covering all the bases. I think the only thing missing here is time, patience. It's going to become more clear and more consistent as you move forward. Mike asks, what's up, Scott? What are your thoughts on the PWCC Vault service? How does it compare in your mind to your traditional down-the-road storage? Good question. Besides Magic, what other non-Pokemon collectibles have you thought about acquiring? Do you see signatures as a new frontier in the world of TCG, or just a fad? PWCC Vault is very good. It fills a role, fills a void, and PWCC is cutting edge. Plain and simple. They're doing everything that you want to do for collections. They're very innovative. They know exactly what they're doing. I think that option is very good, especially compounded with all the sales tax nonsense that's being tacked on now to certain states. It's a very good option for a lot of people for storage, very secure. They understand what collectors need, and they delivered that. It's definitely better than your down-the-road storage, for sure. This is not an endorsement whatsoever. I get no kickback from PWCC for saying this, but I would definitely put it well above like a U-Haul or whatever storage option. As for other non-Pokemon stuff, I mean, really it's just mostly Magic right now. Like, I think this past month I spent probably $40,000 on Alpha alone. So I'm spending a ton right now just to get that Alpha stuff done. And I probably need to slow down and enjoy it a bit more. I just got a lot of the big stuff out of the way so I can, enjoy it 20 miles per hour and look out the window and enjoy the view. But that's really taking up most of my non-Pokemon stuff right now. And then signatures, I think it's a new market. It's a new emerging market right now. I don't think it's a fad. I think there's always going to be interest to it. I do think it's going to have peaks and valleys. I do think there are going to be high moments of new signature, new signing, new cards available, and then low moments of super saturated because you have people who come in with boxes of 1,000 cards and get them signed, and they put too many of them on the market. Yeah, you're going to have your peaks and valleys, but if anything, that's a sign. The peaks and valleys are a sign of an established new market. So I don't really think it's a fad. I think there's always going to be demand to it, but of course the value can fluctuate. All right, last few questions. Stephen Kent, absolutely love your videos. As someone who is currently self-employed and deals with Pokemon cards for a living, what would be your top tips on just starting out? Mostly deal with playable singles and low-value PSA cards at the moment. Well, that's a different corner than what I deal with. But that's the beauty of markets, is that we're all playing different roles. We're filling different, needs. So, honestly, the general advice is just keep on keeping on, Joe Dirt. It really is just continue trying to find a niche or something that you're good at, and just keep going. Just keep putting in that effort. That's the thing you control is effort. I know it sounds like a cliche or a bumper sticker, but it's real life. Like, even for me sometimes, I'll wake up feeling lazy. Like today, I'm like, all right, I'm going to do casual for the Patreon video. But there's times when it's like the more effort you put in, the more dividends it pays. That grind is what it's all about. I was just doing nothing but research and hustling all the time years ago, nonstop. I remember when I walked out of a full-time job just to do this full-time. Huge risk, and I was like, I don't care. That, if anything, that experience of that job gave me the personal motivation, and that's what a lot of this is about. People don't talk about that. It's the intangibles. We can all talk about how to buy low and sell high, how to buy this card and optimize a certain thing. But a lot of it comes from you. A lot of it comes from that motivation to keep doing it every day and to keep pushing aside the noise, the criticism, whatever it is, and to keep moving forward. It's a constant grind. It's like that BoJack Horseman quote with the runner who's like, yeah, it's hard, but the more you run, the easier it gets. That's just life in general. So with that motivational speech aside, there's no magic bullet of what to say, like what to buy or what to do, because we're all in different categories. But from what it sounds like, just keep looking for ways to innovate. Like with singles, I personally would sell into the hype. Like if you're breaking Hidden Fates, unload that as fast as you can. If I were doing like the storefront right now, if I ran a brick and mortar storefront, what I would do, Hidden Fates, get it in, get it out. Like just get that out as fast as you can, because you're making great margins. I mean, you're selling into the hype. And that's people buy into the hype. People like that experience. I think a lot of people are too negative about that. A lot of people say, oh, hype, whatever. It's stupid. It's ridiculous. It isn't all bad. I mean, why we like Charizard is because of the hype on the playground, So people like that. People like that experience. Sell into that. Sell into that if you have your new product. I can give you another pro tip. Like when I get my modern stuff, I sell it quickly because people are excited about it in that moment. And if people pay an extra $10, $20 just like for these boxes because they bought it, during that initial phase, they're just paying for that experience. It's kind of like when you buy a game during release and you can have those experiences of like when they nerf it, when they add some add-on or you go through that experience with your friends. There's a value to that. There's definitely a value to that. So as a store, tap into that, sell into that. If you're doing modern playable stuff, get it out there as fast as you can, get your modern product out there as fast as you can. That's what I do with the Japanese stuff. I get it out as fast as I can, and then I just have like the incremental drip over time of the other stuff until I phase it out. But again, that's all I could give you because it's a very open-ended question. Hopefully that helped a bit or gave you some motivation, but it will be a grind, especially the lower tier was a grind for me. You got to keep in mind, people see me now with all the trophies and all this capital or whatever, but that's a result of grinding for over a decade. And grinding in a time when people were shitting on everyone who touched Pokemon. People were like, oh, this is stupid, you're dumb, there's nothing here to indicate this is going to grow. And I was like, don't care, I'm going to keep grinding. And I did that for a long time, man. Still do it today. It's just a different form. I've adapted over time. So there you go. Hopefully that does something for you and covers something at least that you're looking for, hoping for. Burndo says, hey Scott, for some reason Naked Misty is one of the most popular Japanese cards out there, and explicitly for trainers like Wick, I see where this is going. Wick are selling very well. Is this trend a reality we have to face and adapt to? What if we see more Dark Magician Girl-esque cards, and also how do I explain that page in my binder to someone else? Explain the money to them. Maybe that helps. People always understand numbers. Like when people would chirp me for like what I do in Pokemon, one of my favorite retribution responses is like, just tell me what you make in a year, and they'll be like, I've sold a card for more than that. So money is the answer for just if you're worried about someone criticizing you, just say like, yeah, you can make fun of that card, but it's worth like $100 or whatever. So it's just part of the market. I mean, since we're in Patreon, since this is a safe space, I'll give you like a really full answer here. But I don't really mind that people's like sexuality. It's not my thing. It's not something I do or into. I don't mind that it bleeds into it. Like, we're just humans at the end of the day. It's human nature. Like, what is the harm here? Like, I'm not one of those people who's like an alarmist. I'm like, oh, it's so crazy. Like, Naked Misty's so mild. I think it's cool. I love the history. I remember my friend had it growing up, and it was cool to see it in a binder. I'm like, whoa, dude, you got Naked Misty. It's a story. But yeah, as for the other full arts, I know what you're talking about with Wick. I mean, to me, it's funny. I don't really mind it. I don't think it's harmful. And, you know, if people are interested and they collect it, what's the harm? At the end of the day, that's my take on it. And don't be insecure if someone criticizes it. Send them my way and let them know how it works, and let them know how the big boys do it. And I think they'll calm their criticism. Jacob asks, love what you do for the hobby. What do you think of the Top Sun Card-ass and non-TG sets from Japan? Good question. Do you enjoy or collect these cards yourself? PSA 10 versions of many of these cards have less than 5 in the pop. Do you believe there are many more high-quality versions of these cards in Japan waiting to be graded, and will prices ever spike? Another very good question. In general, my favorite non-TCG are these guys right here. This is my favorite set for one reason: artwork. I mean, this card alone is just the epitome of what we're doing. I mean, it's the Sugimori design. Charmander with the little spike on his back. Like, this guy right here is the embodiment of us. It's the embodiment of collectors, you know. Very sentimental card. Kind of tapping into that previous one. You know, if someone criticizes this, that says more about them than anything else. You know, if some guy wants to come in and act like they're alpha or whatever, and they can't be content to understand why people value this is what it's all about, man. This is it right here. So this card to me is like the pinnacle of what collecting and what this hobby just is. Like, that's the essence of it in one card. So that's why I like Card-ass. Is so much history, so much nostalgia. For the others like Top Sun and things like that, I'm not as hot on the ones that just have like a generic art and then like a color. You know, like the greenbacks or whatever it is. I'm not as hot on those. I like these because it's unique to that set. All done by Sugimori. It's a full Sugimori set from that early era with the concept design. Just phenomenal artwork. And it's very affordable too. These cards are extremely affordable. You can get that full set with the checklist, like at $1,000 or less. I mean, that's very affordable. It's like, I don't know what the price per card is for that, but that's extremely affordable for how old they are, for how beautiful they are. So those are my favorite, bar none. As for your pop question, I don't think there's a direct parallel. I think that's something people need to understand. Is that it's not binary all the time when the pop is low. The pop can be low for a lot of reasons. I think that's a false extrapolation, or like a false parallel that people draw. And, you know, if the pop's low for, say, like a WotC card that has like 100 PSA 9s but only like 2 10s, that's a great example of a card that's difficult to grade. When you have a card that has a total of like 5 graded, that's probably a low interest card if it's not organically rare. So at the end of the day, I don't think there's going to be a huge price spike. they can have room, sure. I would say a lot of this is dictated mostly by supply. That's what I would say. These are very supply heavy cards, kind of like Grand Party. Grand Party usually fluctuates by supply. I know you're going to be like, well, supply and demand, right? Easy, good game. But really, there are cards that are heavily dictated by supply where some aren't. Some can have consistent supply, like a Charizard first at base, and they're going to keep going like this. But, Grand Party's really strong one that comes to mind. Very popular card, and when they're taken off the market, it usually goes up a couple hundred. When there's more of them, it goes down maybe 100 or so. So, I think that's how those will play out because they are more niche. But again, these are my favorite. The 97 card S are my favorite, personally. And I think it's because they have more flavor to them, more history. They just have more oomph. They have more something to them than the others. But again, that's just my take on them. Last question, Matthew Smith says, hey Scott, do you think Pokemon's legacy is more defined by the late 90s boom or the fact that it has amazingly been able to maintain itself over 2 decades and counting? The way Pokemon caught lightning in a bottle in the late 90s is probably something we'll never see again, but its longevity is also incredible. I think it's all of the above. I think it's a mixture. It's all in one. If you want to go really philosophical here, I think one of the things I think about all the time is that Pokemon is just a caveat of life. I mean, this might be a little woke, whatever, just blaze it 420 type talk right here, but at the end of the day, it's like Pokemon is just a section of life in general. And I think a lot of people forget that. It's under the umbrella of life. Like, it really tapped into something that we have, like, fundamentally as people. This desire to, communicate with one another, share with one another. Like, if we're going to hyper-analyze the 90s and what happened, that's what it was. Like, we were excited to, like, talk to our friends about Pokemon. We were excited to talk on the playground and find out about Peekaboo. To hear about the new Pokemon that were coming out and discover Mew and things like that. So it really tapped into something unique. It went above and beyond like all other fads, brands, whatever, at the time. Where I think Beanie Babies, a great parallel here is that Beanie Babies had that interest and people talking about it. But the problem is it was just like, oh, I'm going to go get that thing. I'm excited to go get that thing. Pokemon wasn't that. Pokemon was like, oh, let's talk about the numbers. Which one's your favorite? Which one did you choose? How did you do this thing? How did you experience that? Oh, did you get that Pokemon? You want to trade for that? It's so much more of an engagement than any other hobby. So, therefore, I think that process is just always in motion. I think the 90s was like, just like the big bang for Pokemon. I mean, it just was like, there it is. Like, it's unreal. And you're right, it's something you can't reproduce. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. I think Pokemon Go was the closest thing I've ever experienced to that moment in the 90s. I was lucky to be around for both of them and to be cognizant of both of them. And I think the Pokemon Go, like that week in summer 2016, those couple weeks there, that month, like I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. Like it was crazy. It was crazy. My parents were sending me screenshots, my siblings, my friends. I remember I was playing on like a semi-pro soccer team at the time. I went to practice. People were walking, these guys, like anywhere from mid-20s to mid-30s, walking around their phones collecting Pokemon. I mean, it was unreal. And that was another one of these examples of that same process, this engagement. People are engaged. There's something there. Pokemon Go still is popular today. A lot of cynical people will be like, oh, it's not what it was in 2016. It's like, oh, you mean the most successful like launch of anything ever? It's like, yeah, of course it's not going to sustain that. But, it's just crazy how deep Pokemon goes with people. It's proven itself to me over and over and over again. I figured this out a long time ago, like in the late 2000s. I was like, yeah, this is proven, guys. Like there's something here that's unique that we keep coming back to. So I think it's a mixture of both. I know it's a bit more philosophical, but I think that is the ultimate take on it, is that process of what happened, that big bang in the 90s, it just really produced engagement. I mean, everybody, there's so many people I know just because of the medium of Pokemon. So many people of every race, gender, income, country, everything, body type, piling on, interest. And what's great about it is that you start to know other people. Again, it's intertwined with life in general. It's a great avenue to engage with people. Can't say enough about it. So there it is, guys. First Q&A. Hopefully it was useful. Hopefully the casual setup is okay for you. We're all here for the content at the end of the day, but I can't thank you enough. This is really fun. I was really excited to do this. Like I was like, okay, can I do it yet? Can I do it yet? Is it the middle of the month yet? So I look forward to doing this every month. And as always, I appreciate all the support. It's why I'm still here. I try to be as candid as possible with you guys and as open as possible as I can. So hopefully that is valuable. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know how you feel. Appreciate the support, guys. Till next time.